This is East Carolina All-American Bryant Packard, and we're talking Pirate baseball and the Sports Objective, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates.
Big series coming up. Very excited about the Super Regional as the Pirates are going to Nashville. They're going country, and they're taking on Vanderbilt. And I know, Bubba, we got a very special guest.
Absolutely, Dave. Very excited right now to be joined by Kevin Ingram. He is the Vandy baseball radio play-by-play voice in his first year in that role, but he spent the last 6 as the TV play-by-play voice on SEC Network Plus broadcast. And Kevin, welcome into the show.
Oh, great to be here. Yeah, it's a lot of fun this week. Looking forward to this series coming up starting on Friday.
Well, you know, Kevin, unfortunately, I don't think I can be a part of the fan base because Bubba can. He can be a Vanderbilt Commodore, but unfortunately, I don't know how to whistle, so I don't think I'm going to be a part of the fan base. But maybe one of these days I can learn how to whistle and I can join you guys.
Dave, I think you overestimated my whistling ability. You got to remember the other night when I was doing that in Greenville, I was standing right beside you. I wasn't doing it for thousands of folks to hear. And that's just remarkable. We'll get Kevin's take on it.
Well, it's funny. People ask me about the whistlers a lot. There's actually 2 whistlers, and they do different little cadences during the games. I've heard it so much that I sort of tune it out. I don't even really notice it anymore. So every now and then I will. And, especially if it's a big situation of the game and, people kind of get in, clap along or whatever. But I really don't even notice it anymore. I've heard it so much. But my whistling ability isn't really all that good either. So I don't think I would fit in very well in trying to, if I had to fill in for one of the whistlers, I don't think I'd be much help there.
Well, you definitely being in Nashville, one of my favorite cities in America. I love it. We did country radio for 3 years. So went to the country radio broadcasters seminar, which is there every single year, late February, early March. But anyway, let's talk some baseball. I know that one of the things that I would say is Vandy is very good, but one of the things I've noticed is that people that are maybe not familiar with East Carolina are not giving the Pirates respect. But I know that Coach Corbin will, and obviously the program will.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think that's one of the things that makes Vanderbilt successful, too, is they treat each opponent with the respect they deserve. And, everybody, if you follow college baseball, you know what East Carolina is about. I mean, this program's been terrific and it's been ranked throughout the season. This is going to be a really tough series coming up. I think anybody that underestimates the Pirates in the series is doing so at their own peril. But, as far as Vanderbilt's perspective on this, that's one of the things this program does really well is it doesn't matter if you're playing a midweek game against a team you're supposed to beat by 10 runs or you're playing an SEC series or in a super regional or whatever. Each opponent gets the same amount of respect. They do the exact same work, exact same preparation. If you go out and watch batting practice and the pregame work they get in, it's all the same every time. The players are the same way. You can't tell from one game to the next who the opponent is as they prepare for these things. So nationally, yeah, you may be right. Maybe East Carolina is not getting the amount of respect they deserve, but I can guarantee you from that Vanderbilt dugout and that Vanderbilt program, they will absolutely get all the respect they deserve because you don't get to this point, play this weekend in the Super Regionals without being a really good team, and East Carolina is certainly that.
Now, Kevin, before we dive in more to this club specifically, let's just talk about what Coach Corbin has achieved over his couple decades there in Nashville, 19th season now. Obviously prior to coming there, he had spent nearly a decade with Jack Leggett at Clemson. So he had a major influence on Coach Corbin. And then East Carolina head coach Cliff Godwin, as well as Michigan head coach Eric Bakich, spent time there with Coach Corbin in Nashville. For Cliff Godwin's case, he was only there for that one season, the fall of 2004 and then the spring of 2005 as a director of baseball operations. But just talk about what Coach Corbin has built there. And this is a program that really hadn't had much success at all prior to Coach Corbin's arrival, very much like Rice prior to Wayne Graham's arrival.
Yeah. It really has been pretty amazing to see what Coach Corbin has accomplished with this program. He just won his 900th career game back on Friday night against Presbyterian, but they've been to the College World Series 4 times in a 10-year span, 2011, 2014, 15, and 19. Won it twice, a runner-up once in 15. But where that program was when it started, when Corbin started back in the early 2000s to where it is now is really, to me, one of the most remarkable stories in sports. For a longest time, they barely even had a ballpark. I mean, it was, the field wasn't much to speak of. They built Hawkins Field, which is, the configuration they have now. And, they've added on some bleachers and stuff in the outfield and built a whole new facility out behind left field over the years. But just the kind of the standard of excellence that Coach Corbin has set, you could see it from the early years. I was thinking back and, doing some research for this super regional. Vanderbilt broke through back, kind of mid 2000s, got to a super regional, went out to Texas and played, lost both games, but that was a really big accomplishment then just to get to that point. And you think from there to here, what the program's been able to do it's just been crazy. And, Coach Corbin, he's just a great guy. If you get to know him, you see him on the field and he's real stoic and very, very intense during the games, but, to know him off the field, he's just one of the great guys you'll ever meet. And it's just a pleasure to be around this program and just see how everything is done, and the attention to detail is just remarkable.
And I know that he has Cliff Godwin has tremendous respect for Coach Corbin and spoke highly of him yesterday, and of course the press conference. And I know that one thing he said in the past is not that he hates playing Vanderbilt; he hates playing a mentor like Coach Corbin.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that goes around. You mentioned Eric Bakich at Michigan. I think there was some of that when they played in the finals a couple of years ago up in Omaha in the College World Series. And we went out and saw Josh Holliday out in Oklahoma State earlier this season. It's kind of inevitable, though, that you're going to run into people who are your mentors, your colleagues. Vanderbilt and Florida play every year, and Kevin O'Sullivan and Coach Corbin were on that same staff at Clemson. And I always joke that they're kind of like frenemies, when they face off. But you have all those connections, in baseball or any sport for that matter, and they're kind of unavoidable. But I know there's a lot of respect that goes back and forth, and it's kind of neat to see, the Vanderbilt staff and Coach Corbin interact with some of those other people as we make our way around and play different series against different teams.
Kevin, before we dive into the personnel, and obviously plenty of star power with this Vandy ball club, as there so often is, but just the season on a whole, Vanderbilt's 43-15. They went 19-10 in the SEC, 8-8 down the stretch, very much like East Carolina, struggled a bit down the stretch relative to the rest of the season. So just give us an overview, and then obviously went 3-0 last weekend in the Nashville regional.
Yeah, it was got off to a great start in SEC play. Started off 8-1, went to LSU and swept, went to Missouri and swept, and just really rolling out of the gates in conference play. But man, that's just a tough league. And you kind of look at who Vanderbilt played down the stretch in the SEC. We went to Florida, lost 2 out of 3 there. Went to Ole Miss, and that was the best atmosphere of anywhere we played the whole season. It was a crazy old series, and Ole Miss won 2 out of 3 in that one. Had a chance to sweep Kentucky and really finish atop the SEC East, but a 9th inning home run got us there against the Wildcats in the last game of the regular season. Went down to Hoover, won the first game against Ole Miss in a walk-off, another one that finished after midnight, and then we played Arkansas and then saw Ole Miss again and dropped those 2. But I think the feeling was that regardless of how the end of the regular season went and how things went in Hoover, it was all geared toward getting ready for the NCAA tournament and making sure you're playing your best when you get to that point. I think I said this, and I'm sure a lot of people around Vanderbilt and a lot of the other programs in the SEC would say that they were just glad to get out of the SEC and play somebody other than those teams, because it is, it's a 30-game grind to the finish over a 10-week span. And if you can survive that and have a decent record and have a chance to, get to the NCAA tournament in good shape, that's where you want to be. But this team has battled some injuries too. There have been some significant ones. Carter Young hurt his shoulder in a midweek game against FIU right toward the end of the regular season. He missed a half dozen games, including Hoover. You had Tate Kolwick just got hurt again the other night on a play at second base and missed the last 2 games of the regional here in Nashville. And he had been out a while. He broke a bone in his hand and had to have surgery and missed a stretch there. And a couple of our pitchers been out. We missed Sam Leboki, was one of our top relievers, gone for the season. But kind of had to, every team deals with it. You have to play around those injuries, and Vanderbilt has had to do some of that this season.
No question. You were talking about the regular season. The great thing about postseason, it can be good or bad, is the very fact of it's a brand new season. And with Coach Corbin and the team, they've been here before. So it's not like that this is their first time or they quote unquote, they're happy to be there. This is something they know. So now that gets down to the nitty gritty. I wanted to ask you, what do you know about East Carolina as far as the team? I guess we'll start there, and then we'll ask you the same thing.
I've done some of my prep on them. I know it's an excellent ball club in the American Conference. A couple Golden Spikes award semifinalists was announced in the last couple of days. You got good arms, you got good bats. Like I said before, you don't really get to this point without being a really good team. And I've kind of watched them off and on throughout the season, and know they've been ranked and have been a really good team throughout the year. So there's no fluke that East Carolina's in this spot.
Kevin, you talk a couple excellent arms. Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, and obviously there are plenty of tremendous arms on this Vanderbilt pitching staff, but those are the two that get a lot of the spotlight. So just talk about the video game like numbers. They've combined to strike out 290 guys thus far.
Yeah, they're such a treat to watch. This will be the last home series for those two, and I hate that the games are at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time on Friday and Saturday. Kumar Rocker he's just not just a good player on this team. He's an iconic athlete at Vanderbilt. When you go back 2 years to what he did the remainder of the regular season that year down the stretch, and then in the postseason where he pitched a no-hitter against Duke. He pitched 2 great games in Omaha, including an elimination game against Michigan. And then this season, we feel like we kind of got cheated out of last season. But then this year, Kamar's just, he has been the man on Friday night. He goes out there and competes. It doesn't matter if the game's maybe going great or going not as well as he would like, or whether he has his best stuff or not. He is going to go out there and bring it and compete every time out. And that's the thing you appreciate the most about him. He's just so fun to watch. And then Jack Leiter, again, feel like we got cheated out of his freshman season last year. Only saw him make a few starts, but he comes out and throws a no-hitter against South Carolina in the first SEC game he played in, and then proceeds to throw 22 consecutive hitless innings to start off his run in SEC play. And everybody kind of looks at him like, well, he's just going to do this every single game. Well, you guys know as well as I do, it just doesn't work that way when you play in this league. But he's had a fantastic season. Both have been All-Americans, both Golden Spike semifinalists, announced the last couple of days. They're kind of, they both have power stuff. Leiter has the, a couple different shapes of the breaking pitch. We've seen Kumar throw the cutter quite a bit more this season. He's devastating slider. You kind of know what you get, just that amazing power stuff out of those two. But, man, they're fun to watch. They're a great 1-2 punch. That's one thing that, I thought if Vanderbilt could get to a super regional, regardless, of who the opponent was or what the situation was, those two would give you a good chance to win. Finding that third starter has been a real challenge this year for this team. It was Thomas Schultz for a lot of the year. It was Patrick Riley some down the stretch. We saw the 17-year-old freshman Christian Little pitch a great game against Ole Miss down in the SEC tournament. So if it gets to a Game 3 on Sunday, that'll be a really interesting spot for Vanderbilt to see what Tim Corbin might do right there.
And I wanted to ask you, Kevin, as far as the relief pitching as a whole, what are some other names that maybe Pirate fans and baseball fans may not know that would come in and give you some good innings?
Well, the main 3 guys are the 3 M's, as I like to call them. Nick Maldonado, I'll start with him. He's number 29. He's a guy who can say the game on Saturday that Jack Leiter pitched against Georgia Tech. Leiter went the first 6. They brought in Maldonado in the 7th, and everybody pretty much knows what the plan is. They're going to ride him to the finish line. He can give you long relief. He can give you a 3-inning save. He can come in and get one batter out like he did on Sunday night / Monday morning when he got the final out of that 11th inning to finish off the win. He's been really, really reliable. The best thing about him is he comes in and throws strikes. He'll dial it up kind of low 90s with a fastball, maybe a little bit more than that sometimes, but he's always right around the zone, and he's really been tough. He's had a great year. Luke Murphy, who pitched a whole lot of the game against Georgia Tech on Sunday and came within 1 out of finishing it off. He had a leg cramp and had to come out of the game, and Vanderbilt used a couple more relievers after that in the 11th, but super hard thrower. He missed a little chunk with an injury, but has come back and has been really good. Just basically fastball, slider, again, guy just throws really hard. He's like mid to upper 90s. Chris McIlvain, another guy they kind of use in long relief. If, say, you start Patrick Riley and he pitches maybe 3 innings or gets in a little trouble, they'll bring in McIlvain to kind of bridge the gap there. He might pitch 4 innings, 3 or 4 innings right there. but he throws hard. But those are kind of the main three relievers you'll see. There's a guy who's a veteran on this team, Hugh Fisher, who has been through all this. I mean, he's played in the postseason in 2018 and 2019, and even before that. He missed he had not pitched since the Super Regional against Duke until this season. He had arm surgery and has come back, but left-hander, throws really hard, good mid-90s fastball and sort of a wipeout slider. You'll probably see him some. Ethan Smith has just come back. That's another arm out of the bullpen to look for. He came back and pitched some over the weekend, but those are kind of the main guys you'll see in terms of bullpen arms.
Yeah, one of the things regarding the bullpen, you'd heard some of the national folks, and I'm sure at times over the course of 50-plus games there have been some struggles. But looking at these numbers, you definitely would not know it. I mean, all three of the three M's that you just mentioned, opponents are hitting something like 169, 179, and 250 against them.
Yeah, no, those three, they've had moments where they've, given up a home run or something here or there, and that probably hurts your ERA and maybe your opponent batting average a little bit. But, overall, they've been super reliable. All those guys I talked about, especially those, Maldonado and Murphy and McIlvain, those guys have been really good this season.
And let's talk about the offensive side of the ball, so to speak. What about the bats? We know how good Vandy is. What are some names fans would like to know about?
Well, one of the main names is the guy at the top of the lineup, Enrique Bradfield. He was the SEC Freshman of the Year. He's been named to All-American teams. He was first team All-Conference and All-Defensive. He's really the table setter. He had 4 stolen bases in that game against Georgia Tech on Sunday, and is the national leader in steals. He has more than a lot of teams have, climbing on up into the mid to upper 40s now. I think he has 46 on the season after the 4 on Sunday. But he's just had a great season. He gets on base. He steals bases. He just disrupts things at the top of the lineup and plays great in center field. Dominick Keegan, I don't know how he was not on any of the All-SEC teams. He's the leading hitter in average, and man, just one of those guys who hits line drives everywhere. He had a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning of the game on Sunday. Has had a great season. Isaiah Thomas, of course, hit the grand slam in the 11th that pushed Vanderbilt to the win. He's one of those guys, man, when he gets hot, you can ride that dude a long way, because you'll know when he's really in a groove. That the home run he hit, the grand slam, was almost a rarity when you look at his home runs. His homers are usually kind of gap to gap. He just hits rockets, from one gap to the other, but kind of pulled that one down the line. But he's going really well right now. You got just a bunch of guys having a good season. Carter Young, I mentioned he hurt his shoulder and missed a little chunk there toward the end of the season, missed 6 games, the last regular season series and the tournament for the SEC. But he's a switch hitter. He's batted mostly left-handed to try to protect the shoulder, but did get in some right-handed at-bats on Sunday. But really, he's a power source they were missing when he was out of the lineup. Good power and RBI guy and a terrific shortstop. You'll see Parker Nolan. He's a second baseman, left-handed bat, good to the opposite field. Jason Gonzalez, the third baseman. He hit the longest home run I think any of us have ever seen at Hawkins Field in that game Sunday to tie it up in the 8th inning. A veteran guy, another one who's played in the postseason quite a bit before. Catcher C.J. Rodriguez. You look at the numbers, they don't really tell the story on him. Really good guy in the clutch. Watch out for him. He can hit a double or hit one somewhere to bring in some runs when you need it. Hope to have Tate Kolwick back, our starting second baseman. Hurt his hand in the first game of the NCAA Regional against Presbyterian. I'm trying to think who I'm leaving out. Troy Leneve has really come on strong. He's a sophomore from Pittsburgh, and they plugged him in due to some injuries in kind of the stretch run of the season in April and May, and he hasn't come out of the lineup since. He has swung a really hot bat, so he's been terrific. So a few of the names to look for. You'll see all those guys in the lineup that East Carolina will face.
Kevin, one of the things that jumps out about this lineup to me, not only are they hitting for average 300, but then the number of extra base hits they've produced. They're slugging 510 as a team, 86 home runs, 123 doubles, and a number that really jumped out at me, 20 triples.
Yeah, we haven't seen very many triples lately. They've been stuck on 20 for a while. I thought we might see a couple down there in Hoover. That ballpark's like Death Valley. You play in all these little SEC ballparks, not all of them, but some of them are really small and don't give up many triples. Our ballpark, it's pretty big in the gap. So that's why you'll see some from Vanderbilt and Enrique Bradfield and Isaiah Thomas. And some of these guys are so fast. Carter Young, same thing. They've been able to get some 3-baggers on the season, but just a lot of extra base hits. The ballpark is Saw a lot of home runs on Sunday. In a lot of ways, it's kind of a doubles ballpark. It has the big wall in left, has a 35-foot high wall in left field straight down the line. But, for the most part, it really plays pretty fair in the outfield. It's not really a big advantage either way. It's 375 to the gaps. It's 400 straight away. It's about 330 down the right field line. And, the short wall in left, you'll see some home runs popped over it. But, the ballpark, I always say it's a small ballpark that plays big. There's no foul territory, but the field itself in fair territory is pretty good size.
Kevin, as far as the facilities are concerned, we've heard about the stadium, but what about we're also hearing about, Coach was talking about yesterday, like indoor practice, like hitting and obviously pitching, but what else makes coming to Vanderbilt very special as far as facilities was?
Yeah, the new facility, well, quote unquote new, I guess, is not that new anymore. It's been there a few years. They had a pretty nice facility before, but then they really took it up a few notches with what they built a few years back. It's behind the wall in left field. You can kind of see the way the wall is made is kind of metal mesh, and you can see lights or see the offices behind it. But yeah, they have cages. They have a pitching lab. They have one of the cool things I like is they have displays with all the guys who made it to the major leagues from this program. They have jerseys of all of them, and it seems like they add a couple more every year. We've had at least two more go to the big leagues this year in Ben Bowden and George Sheffield with the Rockies. So those things are cool to walk around and see. And they have a locker room for former players, professional players, so they come back in the off season and want to work out at the facility. They have a place where they can come back and have a locker room, and it's pretty neat to walk around there in the wintertime, and it's like, oh, hey, there's Tony Kemp, or there's these guys that are playing in the major leagues, and they come back to get their work in the off season. But it's a really, really nice place, and I know they've been really thrilled with how that thing has come together, and it's really been a big plus for this program.
Kevin, like I was telling you pre-show, obviously I would love to be there this weekend. I would be if at all possible. You got to keep your priorities in order. My daughter's dance recital and my son's baseball tournament will keep me watching on ESPN via my phone. But just tell Pirate fans that are making the trip, because there are several hundred that will be making the trip at least. What are some of the things, obviously plenty going on in Nashville, but just talk about parking, is tailgating permitted, especially with us just coming out of the pandemic, and what's it like there on the Vanderbilt campus?
What I would say for any fans that are coming here, park in the 25th Avenue garage. It is about diagonal from the right field corner. And if you don't have tickets for the game, it's really a good place to watch the game. And you'll see a lot of Vanderbilt fans tailgate there atop the parking garage, and really the first few levels down from the top. You can see pretty much the entire field except for maybe the right field corner. It's a good place to go. I mean, there'll be lots of Vanderbilt fans there, and they'll be glad to see you if you want to go hang out a little bit, maybe before the game, and tailgate a little bit. But 25th Avenue garage is definitely the place to park. They'll have some things going on the street there right next to the ballpark. They'll have games and stuff for kids. If you bring your kids along, they'll have some stuff for them to do. They usually have little cornhole boards and all sorts of things happening along there. So it'll be a fun atmosphere around the ballpark. Again, I hate that it's an 11 o'clock start, Central Time, because you just don't really have that whole day to sort of wrap it up and get ready for big games. But we'll make the most of it. It'll be fun. Of course, there's tons of stuff to do in Nashville. Downtown is back reopened to what appears to be pre-pandemic levels down on Broadway and 2nd Avenue. So if you're brave and want to go down and experience some of that, then head on down there. It'll be packed on the weekend, that's for sure. And you'll have all the bachelorette parties and all that stuff out there hooting and hollering and riding on the wagons and all that stuff. So, it's one of those things where if you lived around here a long time, you sort of, some of that stuff might annoy you at times, but now, after last year, we didn't have any of that. Like we're all just kind of happy to see everybody. If you want to get out there and ride on the wagons and yell and all that stuff, have a big time. We're happy to see you. So for all the East Carolina fans coming to town, man, come on. I hope you guys have a great time.
No doubt about it. I tell you what, Kevin, sidebar really fast. Every time I'm down on Broadway, I swear it's just, maybe it's because I pay way too much attention. I'm a music nerd. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Fishing in the Dark. I'm like, thank God I love that song. I hear that like a lot of people play for tips, and they're playing that song. I'm like, man, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Fishing in the Dark. So hopefully next time I'm back in Nashville, I'll hear that song. But good luck, obviously. By the way, how can people find your work as far as the broadcast and And as far as social media, how can we do it?
I'm on Twitter at K Ingram Sports. You can listen to our games locally here in Nashville on 560 WNSR. Also, you can use the TuneIn app if you want to listen that way. You're talking about Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and Fishing in the Dark. It seems like Wagon Wheel's another one of those songs, man. You walk up and down, somebody's playing Wagon Wheel all the time. But yeah, that's a fun scene down there.
I love it. I think Bubba's got a quick follow-up. I'm sorry, I didn't realize he had a follow-up.
Yeah, earlier Dave mentioned the Whistlers. I think Preacher Franklin is one of those Whistlers.
Yep.
We're going to try to get him on the show if we could. But have you had any interaction with him over your 07 program?
Oh yeah, I've met those guys. I know who they are. Yeah, I've met them. They're really nice guys. He'd probably do it. He'd probably come on your podcast if you want him to. Yeah, the Whistler. That I actually saw some of that crew down in Hoover. They were tailgating right outside the Hoover Mets. I stopped and talked to him a couple different times. But yeah, if you have him on, he'll be a lot of fun. I've got to tell you one quick East Carolina story. Back in the early 80s, my dad and I grew up in Kentucky. So my dad and I were flipping around. We're watching football on a Saturday night. We came across a game East Carolina was playing, and the quarterback for East Carolina was named Kevin Ingram. And that was the first thing I ever really knew about East Carolina. I was probably 11 or 12 years old at the time. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever. He was immediately my favorite player. And, I kind of looked up Kevin Ingram, the quarterback that had played for East Carolina. He was a great player there. He was a legendary high school player in Philadelphia, and then had gone on and played a little bit in the NFL with the New Orleans Saints. But I always thought that was the coolest thing. Every time I hear anything about East Carolina, that's the first thing I think of is the quarterback Kevin Ingram from the 80s.
That's awesome that you bring that up. I told my dad that. He said, now, Bubba, obviously that's a common name, and it is, but that's that you had that connection and the awareness of the East Carolina Kevin Ingram that played quarterback for the Pirates back in the 80s.
Yep. There are a few of us out there. I met another Kevin Ingram that played in the Arena Football League. He played for the LA Avengers, and he was a terrific Arena League player. I've come across a couple of my parents lived in Illinois for a little while. I guess there was a Kevin Ingram that played in a rock band out there, and people are always calling their house to try to see if he was there. I was like, no, our Kevin's in college in Kentucky. But there are a few of us out there here and there.
We'll look forward to a great series, my friend. Thank you so much having you on, and look forward to having you back on again. Certainly with when we'll preview baseball, we'll have you back on with college baseball. We love it so much, and good luck to the Commodores this weekend. And who knows what's going to happen, but I know one thing is going to be a great series for sure.
I think so too. Dave, Bubba, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Former East Carolina third baseman, also first baseman of the world champion Cleveland Indians in the movie Major League 2, John Gast. And we're talking Pirate baseball on the Sports Objective, the unofficial podcast of the Pirates.